So the first thing I want to mention about probiotic supplements is they can be divided into three types. So you have the lactobacillus or bifidobacterium probiotics. Typically, those are live probiotics. Most need to be refrigerated, but not all. And so these strains claim to basically add more live probiotics to your gut. And many of those already exist in our gut microbiome. Then a second category would be spore-biotics, and these have been growing in popularity for a good reason. So what spore probiotics do is they are in a spore so that they resist that stomach acid and they're able to survive and make it down to our lower gut where our microbiome resides in the large intestine. And there they explode in growth. And in doing so, they release a lot of antimicrobials that will kill off a lot of the more pathogenic types of microbes in our gut, and then allowing more space for our good microbes to grow. So you could say like the spore types might be clearing out the weeds out of our garden, out of our soil. So that's where these spore probiotics have become very useful as a part of health. And I even sometimes often recommend those for traveling, because you never know when you're going to get a bug, or you never know when you're going to eat something not so good and your stomach feels a little bit off. The spore biotics can be good that way. And then a third category of probiotics is the soil-based probiotics. And the soil-based are pretty much, I would say, the same as your spore biotics, because soil-based will be those spores that have a high survival rate in the gut. Now, what's interesting is spore biotics in the soil, okay, these are actually naturally occurring. So know that the more time you spend in nature, if you like to garden in organic soil, or kids living on organic farms, you're out in nature backpacking, these are all good exposures to spore biotics, and why in my previous episode, I talked about backpacking is good for the gut too. So getting out in nature, I just want to add that tidbit that is a way to add more of those. And in our culture, which is more, I would say, we value sterilization. We have this fear of food poisoning, fear of spoiled foods. So we're hyper vigilant about triple washing our produce or making sure there's no bad bacteria. And to a degree, that's good. But back in the day when farming was closer to homes and there was a little more microbes on our food, we got more of those spore biotics naturally. And on top of that, as farmers are using more pesticides on their soil, they're killing more of these spores. So some of these gut imbalances can be caused by the lack of spores that we're getting naturally from foods, because we've had this heavy use of pesticides in our culture, especially in the US. So let's get back to those probiotic supplements. So again, to be clear, you have those that are really just adding live cultures like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. You have the spore probiotics, and then you have the soil probiotics, which are just another form of a spore. Now, moving on to total colony forming units, or CFUs. You will see this on a bottle, CFUs, and some will have 5 billion, 20 billion, 50 billion, 100 billion colony forming units. So usually with kids, you're looking at doses of maybe 5 to 10 billion. Teens, you might work up to 10 to 25 to 30 billion. Some adults prefer 30, more for maintenance, whereas those with more specific needs or trying to give their self an extra bump might do 50 billion per day. And then special needs, like someone really trying to bounce back from using an antibiotic, which, by the way, usually a spore-biotic is better for that. But there are options out there that are 100 billion. And then I move on to the number of strains. So you have the CFUs, and then you go to strains. And strains describe the different types of bacteria that are in that probiotic. So the more variety you have, the better. Some will only have one single strain. Some will have 5. Many now will have anywhere from 12 to 20 different strains to give you more variety in the types of bacteria you're getting, because each of these bacteria have different benefits. But know, again, that these number of strains don't even compare to the nearly 1,000 strains that you have in your gut microbiome. It's just that these particular strains have been studied to have some kind of benefit to our health. So moving on to these strains to go a little deeper. As I said, a lot of these strains have research. So you're going to see some probiotics that claim to help mood. And so it's a probiotic just for mood because it has specific strains that have been shown to have an influence on mood, like decreasing anxiety or depression. Some are lower histamine. They don't trigger histamines as well. And some people will talk about why that's an issue. There's female or male-focused probiotics. Like I said, there's kid-focused probiotics. There might be SIBO-focused, those that can tolerate certain types of probiotics better. But SIBO, for the most part, again, we need to be careful about probiotics for certain populations, and so forth. So moving on to brands, that's where it gets confusing. So you have a little more clarity of, what's in a probiotic. But then, like I said, this market is growing exponentially. So the brands keep expanding. I don't like to favor one particular brand per se, but I could tell you that popular over-the-counter in health food stores might be Jarrow, Jarrow. Garden of Life is popular. I also have my own favorite professional grade probiotics like Claire Labs. But again, there's so many out there. I can't even name them all. I think a favorite spore-biotic is Microbiome Labs. So know that there's so many out there that it can make it difficult. I would say avoid buying store brands like Trader Joe's probiotic. I love Trader Joe's, but maybe don't buy their brand of probiotic because that's not their specialty, right? So you want to look for companies that is their specialty, is probiotics. And ask a health professional, especially a functional medicine practitioner, can help guide you with those types of choices. Now, for the most part, probiotics overall can be a good thing, but there are certain people that will be triggered by taking probiotics. In other words, their symptoms will become worse and they'll feel very uncomfortable. And those with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, those that have too much bacteria in the wrong place, when they add probiotics, when they add live probiotics, those can be very disruptive and feel very uncomfortable. Same with those that don't tolerate histamines and they need to follow a low histamine diet. They will also have a low tolerance for live probiotic supplements. And in both of those cases, it is better to choose a spore type of probiotic so that you're really trying to clear out a lot of those harmful type of bacteria or microbes in the gut. So it's kind of like looking at it like there's a bunch of weeds in the garden and you want to clear the weeds before you're just adding in more seeds. So good to clear things up. And that could be true for everyone, getting those spores in to clear up your microbiome and then gently adding maybe a supplement. Okay. And then one thing I do want to add about supplements is new research is showing that dead microbes are very beneficial. We used to think that, if you take a live probiotic, if it doesn't make it through the stomach acid, it's useless. But in fact, these probiotics, even if they die in your stomach acid, the broken down cell walls of these microbes stimulate our gut immunity in a very good way. And on top of that, some of these other byproducts that might be present will also be beneficial in the gut. So know that these dead microbes can also be good for you. That doesn't mean you should go out and use your expired probiotic or use a probiotic that should have been refrigerated, but it's been sitting on the counter for a month. We don't want those that might be spoiled or contaminated. That's not the same. So I'm talking about maybe, those supplements that they get killed in your stomach acid and they're not quite alive in the gut.